In 1933, an 18-year-old boy crept out of his family's farmhouse in the middle of the night. He didn't pack much, he didn't leave a note. He went to the barn, untied one of his father's cows, and sold it for the price of a train ticket. That cow cost him everything: his family's trust, his name, his place in the village. What it bought him was the seed of the world's largest empire. This is the story of Chung Ju-yung, a man born into poverty in what is now North Korea under Japanese colonial rule, who tried to escape his life 5 separate times before the age of 18. A man who, with no formal education, no money, no connections, and no experience, built Hyundai, a company that today employs over 250,000 people, builds cars driven in 193 countries, operates the world's largest shipyard, and at its peak represented 20% of South Korea's entire GDP, all of it from one stolen cow. To understand why a teenager would steal from his own father, you need to understand what his world looked like. It is 1915. Korea is a Japanese colony. The northern village of Tongcheon has no electricity, no running water, no future beyond the farm you were born on. Chung Ju-yung is the eldest of 8 children. His father, a stubborn traditional farmer, has one vision for his eldest son: take over the land, work it, die on it. But from the moment Chung could think clearly, he had one obsession: not farming, not family honor, Seoul. He tried to escape at 16, walked 15 miles to a construction site in a neighboring town. His father dragged him back. He tried again. Took odd jobs on the docks of Incheon. His father found him again, back to the farm, and again, and again. 5 attempts, 5 failures. For 5 times he watched the walls of that village close, back in around him. By 18, Chung Ju-yung had made a decision. This time, he wasn't going to be caught. This time, he was going to make it impossible to go back. The night he left, Chung went to the barn. He didn't take money. There was none. He didn't take food. There wasn't enough to spare. He took a cow, one of the family's most valuable assets. In rural Korea in 1933, a cow wasn't just an animal. It was a year's income. It was security. It was survival. Chung sold it, pocketed the equivalent of 70 Korean won, bought a train ticket to Seoul, and left before dawn. In Korean culture, what he did wasn't just theft. It was a betrayal of his family's trust, his father's sacrifice, and the Confucian values his entire village lived by. He knew that. He went anyway. Seoul didn't welcome him. He arrived with 71, no connections, and a secret he couldn't tell anyone: that he had stolen from his own family to be here. He took whatever work he could find: dock worker, construction laborer, errand boy at a rice mill. Then one day, he got a job delivering rice by bicycle for a small shop called the Bokhung Rice Store. Within 6 months, he had been promoted to bookkeeper. Within a year, he was running the store. When the owner died, he left it to Chung, 23 years old. First business, built on a stolen cow and a bicycle. But here's what the textbooks leave out. Just when Chung Ju-yung had his first taste of success, Japan took it away. And what happened next would teach him the most important lesson of his life. In 1943, the Japanese colonial government forcibly merged Chung's auto service garage, his second business, with a steel plant. He was thrown out, sent back to the farm, again. For most people, that is where the story ends. But Chung Ju-yung was not built for endings. In 1945, Japan surrendered. Korea was liberated, and Chung was on the next train back to Seoul. In 1946, he founded Hyundai, a name meaning modern. with 11 employees, including one mechanical engineer, who was actually a teacher with no real engineering experience. Then came the Korean War, 1950. North Korean troops crossed the border. Chung abandoned his construction projects, fled south to Busan with his brother. Everything he had built, gone again. Most men would have stopped counting at this point. Chung Ju-yung started rebuilding before the war was even over. After the war, South Korea was rubble, and Chung Ju-yung understood something nobody else did. Rubble is just opportunity you haven't built yet. His brother Chung In-young spoke English. That one fact changed everything. The US military needed contractors. They needed roads, bridges, military bases rebuilt. Chung's brother walked into American military offices and started winning contracts that Korean companies had never touched before. Hyundai built the Gyeongbu Expressway, connecting Seoul to Busan in 1970. Built a nuclear power plant. Built the Soyang River Dam. Then came the moment that defined Chung's character forever. A bridge his company was contracted to rebuild collapsed during construction. This should have destroyed him. Lawsuits, scandal, prison. Instead, Chung Ju-yung rebuilt the bridge. At his own expense, no excuses, no legal maneuvering. He absorbed the loss and delivered the result. The South Korean government noticed. They didn't just see a contractor, they saw someone who treated responsibility as absolute. Hyundai became the government's most trusted builder. In 1971, Chung Ju-yung walked into the London offices of Barclays Bank. He wanted $60 million to build a shipyard. Here is what he had. No shipbuilding experience. No ships. No shipyard. Not even a completed design. Here is what Korea had. No tradition of building ships larger than 10,000 tons. And Chung was proposing to build 260,000-ton oil tankers. The bankers looked at him like he was insane. Then, Chung Ju-yung reached into his pocket and pulled out a Korean 500 won banknote. On it was a picture. The Geobukseon, the turtle ship. Built in 1592, the world's first ironclad warship, built by Korea. He laid it on the table and said, "We have been building ships for 400 years. You just didn't know." Barclays gave him the loan. Shipbuilding, cars, construction, electronics. Chung Ju-yung was building an empire that was larger than most countries. But at the peak of his power, he did something nobody expected. He went back for the cow. It is 1998. Chung Ju-yung is 83 years old. Hyundai is one of the most powerful companies on earth. He is one of the richest men in Asia. And he drives a convoy of trucks to the Korean demilitarized zone, the most dangerous border on the planet, and crosses into North Korea. In those trucks, 500 cattle. Not as a political stunt. Not for publicity, because 65 years earlier, he had stolen one cow from his father's farm in Tongcheon, which now sat inside North Korea, and he had never stopped thinking about it. He was repaying the debt, with 500 times the interest. Chung Ju-yung became the first South Korean civilian to cross the DMZ since the Korean War. He walked the last stretch on foot, and at 83 years old, when he arrived in Tongcheon, his birthplace, he was met by North Korean officials and cameras from around the world. And somewhere in that moment, a farm boy who had stolen a cow to escape poverty stood in the village he had run from, not as a fugitive, but as one of the most powerful men in Asia. Chung Ju-yung died on March 21st, 2001. He was 85. By then, Hyundai Group had 86 subsidiaries. It had built Saudi Arabia's Jubail port, at the time the largest construction project in human history. It had created the world's largest shipyard. It had introduced the Hyundai XL to America, the first Korean car to be sold in the United States in significant numbers. At its peak, Hyundai represented 20% of South Korea's entire economy, a country that in 1945 had a per capita income of less than $100 a year. By 2000, one of the world's top 12 economies, and Chung Ju-yung had been at the center of almost all of it. He wore the same pair of shoes for 30 years, constantly repaired, never replaced. A man worth billions, who never forgot what it cost to buy a train ticket. Here is what I want you to take from this story. Chung Ju-yung didn't succeed because he was lucky. He succeeded because he refused to accept the life that was decided for him before he was born. He failed, publicly, repeatedly, catastrophically, and kept going. He stole. He ran. He lied to bankers with nothing but an old banknote and an idea. And then he repaid every debt, every single one. The cow that started everything, he came back for it. With 500. Korea is full of stories like this. Empires built from nothing, dynasties that dominated the world, decisions that destroyed everything overnight. This channel exists to tell them. Subscribe for more, because next week we are going inside a story that makes this one look small. A Korean CEO, $5 billion empire, brought down because of a bag of nuts. I'll see you there.